Thank you. I am mindful of my position here as a substitute senator. I feel confident that Senator Ruchte supports what I'm about to say here today. I also know that this is an issue that's really important to District 29. And I feel that I need to speak up. I shared this with State Affairs Committee this week, but the rest of my colleagues may not know that I have a background in civil rights litigation, specifically defending the state of Virginia for a GOP administration for nearly a decade in complex, high-conflict, policy-oriented civil rights cases. And what I appreciated about that administration when I worked for them is that if, as a team, we came to them and said, you're taking big risks with taxpayer money, they were not interested in advancing doomed policy at the expense of Virginia taxpayers. I appreciated that very much about them. Idaho is currently embroiled in litigation involving gender-affirming care, youth sports, and bathrooms. Idaho has already lost twice civil rights litigation concerning gender identification on birth certificates. By our calculation, we have paid approximately $14 million over the last decade trying to defend statutes like this one. I'm really concerned about what this is going to mean for Idaho taxpayers. I don't agree that this legislation is harmless semantics. It's clearly intended to dictate gender policy in Idaho. I would also point out that a little over 50 years ago, it was a case that came out of Idaho, a probate case, back in 1971, when Idaho used to treat men and women very differently under the Idaho Code. And it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg who brought that case to the U.S. Supreme Court. And it was the first case where the U.S. Supreme Court said, you can't do that. You have to treat men and women interchangeably in your codes. For the next 50 years, in the United States Supreme Court and in the Idaho Supreme Court, we've had case after case after case where the courts have said you have got to treat these terms interchangeably. No matter what you leave in the code, we will read them interchangeably because you have to treat people equally under the United States Constitution. This gender policy, this language, it may seem harmless to you. It's going to be cannon fodder for the litigation that's already filed against Idaho. It's also could be a new civil rights case, the first time an Idaho citizen is denied rights or privileges because of these definitions. And they will be struck down. If you're treating people unequally, they will be struck down. For those reasons, I'll be voting no.